Yeah, this one's just a little conventional. But yeah, we'll wash her up and make it look good. Alright everybody, here we are again in my buddy Rollie's garage. We are standing in front of the 93 Mustang GT. This car has quite a backstory to it, and if you guys are interested to see kind of like the whole story wrapped up, we actually have like a 10 or 11 part video series about this car in particular, but I'm going to have Rollie here explain exactly why he picked up this car, what we did to it, and then we'll have another discussion after that. So Rollie, tell us about this 93 Mustang. Why did you pick it up? And what did we do to it during that whole video series?
It's going to take a minute.
It's all right. We got time. We got time.
Yep. So I had Mustangs. I had 5-wheeler Mustangs for years when I was younger. And then I got out of it for a while. And then I got the itch again, probably because I met this guy. We started working together.
Guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as that first get to know each other meeting for our job, and they're like, and what are you into? And Johnny's like, I'm into 5-wheeler Mustangs. If anyone knows what that is, I'm like, we're going to be friends. But I had bought a 91 convertible GT, which is also on Donnie's channel. But then I realized after having that for a couple years, and we turned wrenches on that, I think we did brakes and some other stuff like that, exhaust stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
and also get rid of some of the unnecessary items that were put into that car. Giant amp wiring and
oh man, yeah. When I went to buy
we went over it in the other videos, but yeah.
Yeah, I went to go buy it, and yeah, it was crazy. But anyway, yeah, the amp wire was the best part. Like, you know, I don't know what gauge that was, but it was ridiculous.
Probably 2 or aught.
Oh man, it was terrible. But anyway, I bought that car because I thought it was a good deal. It had like a built motor, you know how that goes. It had a good top end and stuff on it, but I realized I didn't want a convertible, and I was like, well, you know what, I'm going to look for another one. Went looking for a couple of weeks, was about to give up, because this was a couple of years ago when you could still kind of buy one of these for an okay price. Well, I came across this one as a roller for, I think, $4,500. And at first I was like, is that a good deal for $4,500? Well, then I went and looked at it, and I mean, it's clean. And you know, they had blown the motor in it, so I really got everything that came with the car except for the block and the connecting rods, which are probably the parts they broke. But literally all the other engine components, a good built transmission, all kinds of stuff. Plus everything on this car had already been done. 4-wheel disc, stuff like that, 5-lug conversion, a bunch of good things. So I bought that, we brought it home, and Donnie and I ended up swapping the motor out of the convertible into this and all that. And again, Donnie has a whole video series on that.
Exactly.
But since we got the motor swapped out, I mean, what else have we done to this thing? Jeez Louise.
Yeah, the engine bay is probably where we spent the fruits of our labor. I don't know how long. Of course, through the magic of editing, you guys can watch probably, I don't know, probably 10 to 12, 15 hours maybe worth of work in probably 10 minutes. Yeah. But we did spend a lot of detail in the engine bay, which we originally weren't planning. This was more of like a kind of down and dirty weekend warrior style. Yep. Let's get the motor and trans in so we can actually drive this car. Yeah. And then it's like, well, you know what? Since everything's out of it and we can just wrap up the wires and stuff, clean up the wires a little bit, we can go ahead and kind of revamp the engine bay, which is probably one of the best things we did to it, because it was. Yeah,
I agree, because this car originally, now it's the 93 Cobra Red. What is the actual? Performance Red or Vibrant?
Yeah, one of those two.
It was originally maroon, I believe, if you look in the jams and that. But so that's what the engine bay was. You know, it was in bad shape, no rust or anything like that, but Donnie was like, you know, while we're in there, plus the luxury of a garage, you know, a heated garage with that.
Yep.
So I found out there was a place that sold paint match automotive paint in rattle cans. And of course you can get decent clear in a rattle can too. So yeah, like Donnie said, we figured, why not? The motor's out, it's the right time to do it. So we got that done. After that, it was just spending money on other things. You know,
little knick-knack stuff. But also we also threw a Terminator X Holly system on it. And during that time, we also decided to go ahead and throw a brand new exhaust on it, header to tailpipe. And we did that in one day, just like, you know what, let's just go ahead and knock all this out and stuff. So pretty much almost everything, with the exception of probably the rear ends, I've never had to disassemble that. We did tackle the brakes and stuff like that. Yeah. But in regards to like performance stuff like that, of course the engine came out in the 91. We knew it had a trick flow top end kit on it. Yep. And that I think that what was it slated at? Like it was under 100,000 miles that was on that car supposedly when you got it.
Which one, the convertible? The motor came out of?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was under 100,000 miles on that original motor.
And the car and the convertible ran great after one of our friends did a little bit of a tune-up on it, kind of behind the scenes. And that car drove well, so we knew that power plant was a good, solid power plant to throw into this car. It seemed like the mileage on it never smoked, never burned any oil or anything along those lines. So it was a good, solid power plant, and it'd just be more fun to put in a solid roof car like this. Now, this car does have a sunroof, or what they call a moon roof, or whatever it is. Yeah,
pop-up moon roof.
Exactly. So, but the car is extremely solid. It has a 4-point old school cage in it. It has subframe connectors, pretty much. But we pretty much touch almost everything in regards to performance, and also just like electronics and stuff like that onto this car. Of course, being with the Rollie system, and of course the car, like he said, it's solid. It's straight. It still has factory VIN tags on pretty much every body panel on here. That's still factory. Yep. Of course, it has aftermarket hood and stuff like that. But the fenders, the front bumper, rear bumper, doors, all that stuff is still all the factory Ford metal, which is a huge plus. Yep. That means the car, we didn't notice any weird like body lines on it. So I doubt this thing's been in any accidents, or if there was any kind of Bondo work, they did an extremely good job, because we can't tell. Yeah. But overall, the car is extremely solid. So we did a lot of work to this thing, and of course, results speak for themselves. You were extremely happy with the progress that we made, and how good we got it looking and everything. Oh yeah. But then, of course, you haven't been driving this thing very much. We got the Rollie system in it, and then I got it up and running, but I haven't really fine-tuned the cold start and the idle and stuff like that. Which is that stuff you just got to take your time on. You actually got to have to spend time with the car. Which that was the original plan, where I was going to come back another weekend, see if we can get all that stuff sorted out. More time has passed, and then you decided to come by where I work, Anderson Ford, to pick up some more performance parts for this, some new spark plugs, our Anderson spark plug wires, coil, and stuff like that. Just pretty much to get everything just, brand new, so we can have a good starting point. And then we started talking. And actually, I want you to kind of take over from here, and the conversation that we had and stuff, and I kind of made a little joke, and I'll explain why later, but how did that conversation go?
Right, so as Donnie just alluded to, we had always joked about, hey, if you ever sell this car, it better be to me. And, it was, haha, that's funny, because I figured this is my sixth or seventh, I forget, 5-liter, and I figured, I'm never had one this nice, everything's done on it. Every nut and bolt's been touched, everything, it's done. I can just drive it. Well, then it's been sitting here so long, I was like, you know what? I kind of lost my passion for turning wrenches on these things. And anyone who's ever owned one of these, or even a car like it, an older car that's a quote-unquote muscle car that you're tuning on, you're changing things, that's an ongoing process. It's very rare, if ever, that you can just like, I'm done with this car, and then just drive it for 10 years and never touch it again. You have to keep up on it. I just don't really have the passion for that anymore. So when I was buying those parts, I joked to Donnie like, hey, remember how you said if I ever sell this car, I need to ask you first? And he said, yeah. I said, well, do you want it? He thought I was joking, of course. I was not. So now, this is going to be Donnie's car. So
that's right.
And I'm happy that he's the one buying it. It's going to a good home. It's going where I think it needs to be. Not to mention, this poor guy here put who knows how many hours of blood, sweat, and tears into it, just as much as I did, if not more. So, and of course, without his expertise and know-how and effort on top of that, it wouldn't be where it's at today anyway. So yeah, I figured it's a good fit. I'd rather buy something as a toy that I can just, when the spring hits, I come out, take the cover off of it, dust it off, turn the key and go, And
I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially because you'll go in phases and stuff like that. Like you'll have the passion here and there to go to work on your project, and then all of a sudden it just becomes overwhelming. And that's kind of why you see a lot of projects out there that are like kind of half done or 3/4 of the way done. That they just either whether it be a lack of funds or just overall effort is just not there anymore and stuff like that. So. Guys, this is kind of the perfect situation for me in regards to why I would actually buy another Fox Body Mustang, because as he knows, that my 87 is my baby. I've owned that thing for a long time, and it's not going anywhere.
And a gorgeous car.
Thank you. But so this 93 here was a perfect example of a car that, if you're going to look for a car, if you're ready to go, you got money, and you're ready to go buy another project or just buy another car in general, like a performance toy. This car is the perfect situation for me because of what he just stated. We know pretty much every nut and bolt in this car because we in fact touched every nut and bolt in this car for the most part. 5 times. Exactly. So we know this car inside and out. It's not one of those cars where you're going in with a gamble thinking, okay, if we go into this thing, maybe something is hiding under one of the metal panels. Maybe it's rusting really bad in the floor pans.
I believe the term is lipstick on a pig.
Right, exactly. And this car, I know for a fact, is not that. So this car is the perfect situation for me because I know exactly what's been done to it. So does he. Yep. I know this is going to be an honest transaction, and this car is awesome. Like, I love the color of it, the way the engine bay turned out, and the way that the performance end of it, especially when it was running in the 91, the drivetrain that is. It's just perfect. It's my turbocharged 87 is fun, but there's nothing like the power and the torque and the fun of just naturally aspirated. Yep. You don't have to worry about extra things breaking, and stuff like that. It's just cool that we know exactly what situation I'm going into purchasing this car. So, yep, Rollie is in fact selling this car to me, and never went up on the market because of what he just stated. We always kind of had this back and forth, like, hey, if you ever sell this car, I've got some money for you. And then it's like, oh,
you want this car?
I do want this car, actually. So it's the perfect situation because we know exactly what's been done to this car. We know exactly what kind of work we've done to this car. And I'm lucky. Not a lot of people get to be put in that situation. Of course, there'll be people out there, of course, that have friends that, they help with their projects and stuff. And then if that friend says, you know what, I just don't have the passion anymore, or hey, I need the money, do you want to buy this car? And of course, what's been done to it. Mm-hmm. So that situation is not unknown, but it's not very common, I would say. So in this situation, it just worked out to be a good situation for both of us.
Yep. I think. In these days with the prices of these things, it's far more rare that your buddy's going to be like, hey.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I wanted to kind of video this. Obviously, we're not doing any work today on this car. It's just a fun little, hey, let's see where the 93 is at. And oh, by the way, you guys are going to see this car more and more on my channel. So I'm just going to talk about real quick why and what I'm going to be doing to this car. You heard the backstory of why Rollie picked this car up. And it's a perfect transition into what the future plans are. So, as you guys are aware, I work at Anderson Ford Motorsport, and there's been a revise or revamp or resurgence
or Fox bodies.
Of Fox body Mustangs and performance parts for those cars. And of course, Anderson is still, with me being in charge there, I still like to innovate a little bit. I still like to test things out. And of course, there's a lot of hoopla out there on, who's got the best, so on and so forth of certain parts. So I'm in a unique situation where I can test stuff out. And of course, my car, my 87, I tried doing that a little bit, but it's a turbocharged car, and it's kind of already done. Like a lot of the stuff that, before I started working there, all the main stuff that I would be testing out has already been done. But with a car like this, it's kind of like having a clean slate, a fresh start to be able to test out some of the, the stuff that's been out there for a long time. I have access to the dyno at work, and also whenever there's a new product coming out, testing fitment and stuff like that and functionality, this car essentially will be the new test meal for me, and I'll still be able to enjoy this car. And who knows what the future will hold? Maybe we'll do something bigger for it in the future. But so that was the kind of the whole idea behind it. Like, it's cool to have, add cars to the collection. It makes you, feel good about yourself that you have all these cars, but at the same time, you want to be practical. I do have a family that I need to help support, and, like my wife said, she doesn't want to come home to a used car parking lot in our driveway, and I understand that completely. So there had to be a real focus if I was going to purchase this car, and there will be. So this car will be featured in a lot of Anderson videos coming up, just for testing purposes, dyno purposes, and stuff like that. And I think that's the perfect scenario for myself and where I work. And of course, I can still take this car home and go enjoy it. And then if I wanted to go play with a turbo, I've got my 87. But if I wanted to play with some NA or whatever the future may hold,
or throw a Godzilla in it,
whatever the case may be.
That's my vote.
Whatever the case may be. I'm not going to confirm nor deny whatever is going to happen with this car. But I just wanted to, put it out there why I'm picking this car up. Essentially, it's going to be a test meal for me, and still another fun car to enjoy. I love Fox body Mustangs. I love Mustangs in general. So I'm not against having more. But I wanted to make sure that if I was going to jump into this, that this had a nice purpose behind it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're pretty much going to leave off the video there. I guess the only other thing now to do is I need to cut you a check, and then there they are.
After you talked about how awesome this car is, I'm not joking.
All right, so
handshake deal.
All right, here we go. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. The future, we're still going to, of course, feature this car. May even come over here every once in a while because, you know, it's fun to tinker on stuff and hang out.
I may get another car. Who knows?
Exactly. So keys are in hand. I got to cut this man a check and then, of course, run to the Department of Motor Vehicles because everyone loves doing that. And you know, stay tuned for what the future may hold. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any new content coming to the channel. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.